but not.
What's it mean to you?
Because I know I get afraid, but it makes me feel a little bit better to know that the ones that cause that fear are probably just as afraid, if not more.
Get a little gritty with it now? Beautiful.
Around the age of 4 or 5, I knew that I wasn't a girl. You know, all my life I have been turned away from certain things just because I am trans.
Nobody wants to hang out with the weird black girls or the weird people in general. They only want certain people. They only want you if you have a certain look.
I feel like it's different here in the Bible Belt. Even though they know that I'm black, like they don't really want you to like say it. They don't want it to be signifying your blackness.
I made this joke about how women were always beautiful to me, but I was my own worst crazy and I didn't think it was gonna be conducive to have two of that. And I think that was like my internalized fear of like dealing with my family in that. Hearing dyke and faggot a lot from my dad left a mark I didn't realize until recently.
You'll always feel like an outcast, you know, in smaller towns, but you're not a fraud. Trying to be genuine and true to yourself, and they think that you're just putting up a front just to gain access to something that they have.
You mad, Shane? I heard you got pulled over.
Yes, and the probable cause for searching everybody, well, everybody in the car was because I looked nervous. I have anxiety disorder, I'm always nervous. I don't get it. Don't get it. I was born in Mount Pleasant, a very small town in Texas, and we moved here to Texarkana, which is also another small town. And growing up, I really didn't feel like I felt like I fit in at all. I wanted to be like my brother, like he could have his shirt off and stuff, and I was like, why can't I do that? And I was dysphoric at a young age because like I wanted to be strong as my brother. Heck, I even tried pee standing up. I mean, I wanted to be one of the guys, and you know, I told my mom that. I told her, I said, hey, I'm a boy. She's like, you can't be a boy, you have long hair. I was like, boys can have long hair too, because I do. By the time I was 14 and I started going through puberty and stuff, it wasn't a great time for me. Seeing as I'm intersex, I started growing facial hair and I started getting a chest at the same time. And that was really conflicting. So I started binding my chest and whatnot, and changed my birth name to Shane. I see myself as male, but to me it's a big old spectrum. I like to paint my nails. I like to put on makeup sometimes. Heck, I would wear a kilt or a skirt or something. I don't care anymore. Before that, though, I thought that I needed to be this really macho person, and I needed to look a certain way and speak in a certain way. But yeah, it's changed. It's changed a lot. I feel like I have to be more closed off in public so people don't mess with me. I have to always act like I'm going to... I don't want to sound bad, but I always have to put on the front, like, I'll mess you up if you mess with me. And I don't like that, but I feel like I have to, because if not, somebody's going to mess with me.
And you fuck some people up.
I have. And when you're in this community, sometimes you have to, because people will attack you, unprovoked. So you always have to be on edge, but I don't like to do that, because I'm not that type of person, you know. I don't know.
Malcolm X or Martin?
Malcolm. Malcolm all the way. All the way.
Let me add that before I even know anything about Montori, I made Montori a channel.
Can't wear my hat because it goes against the thing. So my hair's got to go.
What do you spend most of your time doing if you're not at work?
Spend it mostly relaxing, thinking, trying to create things that make me comfortable and make my space feel mine and good. I make candles, soaps. I'm really obsessed with smells.
Yeah.
So yeah, they trigger things and memories into me. So yeah, that's what I do in my free time.
So you were born in Texarkana, right?
Yes, I was born here, born and raised, moved away a few times, always come back. So
Always come back.
always come back. Big black hole, this place. Sucks you in.
No, I know.
Community in smaller towns tend to not really grow or be accepting of anything other than what you grew up to be. You know, you see something that's different and people are gonna wonder what makes that person that way. Like you see somebody with headphones and you see them dancing down the street, like, I wonder what they're listening to. People are supposed to perceive and have their own thought processes. The only time it's really bad is whenever it starts hurting someone else. So.
Do you suppress yourself?
As a black woman, yes. I always have to suppress myself. It's necessary.
Why?
You always have to, just being a black person in general, you have to suppress and wear this mask all the time to do anything, to get by. Everybody suppresses themselves. If you're of color, if you're black, it's just what you do. And if you don't, you stand out, and it's not a good thing to stand out. I just don't understand why when you try to better yourself and you try to, not even trying to be different, you just try to be you, and people think that that's not something that you're supposed to be at all.
She's what I'm calling black girl magic. I'm not done with it yet, obviously, but I'm really trying to make her a girl, but I don't really know how to paint that well. So, my name is Ndidi. Yes, it comes from the Igbo tribe, which is where the tribe that my dad is a part of. It means patience. I am not patient at all, so that's a funny little oxymoron.
So living in Texarkana, do you find it hard to break out of your shell?
I find it hard for people to mind their own fucking business about my shell. That's what I find hard. People look at me weird and crazy all the time. I'm just like, dude, I'm just here like you're here. I just marched to the beat of a different drum, and you're making me sad because you don't know culture. And you don't appreciate things that are different. I've always felt ashamed, well, not necessarily ashamed to be black, but black people would even make me feel like I was not supposed to be a part of their race. And, you know, I was trying to get myself out of a city like this. I was trying to get away from people who made me feel ashamed and belittled. So I don't really have anything that makes me feel ashamed to be black. But I definitely had a lot of people make me feel ashamed to be African, and my father makes me feel ashamed to be African because I don't know you. I don't know literally half of me. And that scares the fuck out of me, honestly, because it's like I don't really know who I am as a whole. I'm gonna have to figure that out.
When I wet my head, water going through my hair to my scalp is a strange sensation.
You like the length up?
Yeah, I'm trying to grow it into a pompadour.
Okay.
I want to do a little, weirdly enough, I feel more comfortably androgynous with hair. Mm-hmm. Like I was very my bald is feminine, nah! But with my hair, I'm like, nah, man, I'm a mysterious girl. So I'm eating that up. I'm liking it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a lot of my my mannerisms in my dancing has become a little more androgynous too, and that's, I don't know. It's an interesting progression to feel.
Okay. Neat.
You know, despite not ever getting out, I never really felt at home here, so I kind of made it what it was while I could. Ended up piercing about a year out of high school. I definitely am proudly bisexual, but pansexuality, bisexuality, I feel it all should be represented. 2015 was the first time I had a relationship with a woman, and it was beautiful and crazy, but it definitely opened up that side of me that I needed to know about. She made a point to let me know that she was proud to be with me, and yeah. It definitely, honestly, it made me feel more comfortable being with her than a lot of the previous partners that I had since I started modifying myself. Growing up, before I could do this to myself, I felt like a liar, like I wasn't representing who I was on the inside, and this made me feel more honest and more raw with people, and with myself. It's funny, because the head tattoo and the way I dress, every once in a while I'll go into a smaller store and I'll get followed around and things like that. And I'm like, oh wow. And then I have to realize, you know what? I paid for this. I did this to myself. I made this choice. There are people born with that prejudice put against them, and they can't do anything about it.
nobody like said, but I could tell like the whole time he was just waiting for somebody to like come up to him. So what's going on with that? They were about to, you gotta fix it. The idea of being a black, intellectual, creative person, artistic person, for me is an important aspect of my identity because the idea has been that like black people aren't that. Like almost like don't even have minds, aren't even really people, so you don't like have a mind in the way that we have a mind. Right now I'm doing a PhD in philosophy and religion. So I started obviously having to study the Bible from an academic perspective. And from that, I had to distance myself from it. I guess I became agnostic at some point, but I was still interested in like studying religion and philosophy. That does feel weird to like, to recognize, to be conscious of the fact that people think that you're different, and now you're like self-consciously different and you're like awkward. I've only lived in Texarkana, Nashville, so now I'm in New Jersey, close to New York, and I still feel it, but it may be remnants of feeling weird here, but even though I'm in a different environment. Like things happen to you, you're shaped in one environment, you leave that environment, that stuff is still with you, even if you're somewhere now where you're fully accepted. I think identity can be anxiety producing. Like if you like start to figure out who you are, you're like, oh snap, I'm this person, or I'm becoming this person. Or being aware that you're black is scary in a way, anxiety producing, because like I think even black people, even for ones who are like very comfortable in their blackness, would have to like recognize, like realizing that you're black, you have to like take that in. Like you have to like dang, I'm black. And that's scary, because then you have to start thinking about a whole bunch of stuff. Like, okay, like I'm black, so that means like there's racism. That means that I have a unique relationship to white people that everybody else doesn't have, or that everybody, right, has different relationships to someone, groups of people based on their identity. So I think it has a lot to do with fear, and I don't even want to say fear of change. I think it's fear of being afraid of the conflict, of being aware of the conflict that's already there and thus it becoming more intense. And I think this ties into people's fear of blackness, because there's this like intimate knowledge that it's intimately related to like oppression.
Growing up, I also felt different in the way that all my siblings, they had straight blonde hair. I had dark, curly hair, and I always wondered why, and then I find out that my biological father's black. But I've never met my biological father, and I didn't know that I was biracial until I was 20 years old. And that really blew my mind. I had no idea. My family is very prejudiced, racist, so they wanted to keep that from me for as long as possible. And so I was just like, what? And I internalized some of that. But after I found out, and I learned that everything I thought I knew was wrong.
I remember like at the age 7, I had this weird complex with myself because I wanted to be American, because I am American, but my name was African, and that tarnished my identity. My name is full Igbo name, Ndidi Chioma Daru. My sisters do not have a full Igbo name. So I stood out like a sore thumb, even with my family. The nameless child is a few things that my mom would tell me that they would say about me, my family. And my mom would be like, no, she has a name. Didi is her name. And you will call her by that because that's her name.
I feel like I'm not supposed to be in that space because well, firstly, I don't look it. My skin's not that dark. And I just feel like, I just don't feel like I'm welcome in that community, to be honest. And I wish I didn't feel that way, but I do, because I'm not white enough and I'm not black enough. When I say I'm not white enough, it's that I have been profiled by police officers because they mistook me for being Hispanic. So I'm not white enough, but also my skin's not dark enough for people to look at me and be like, oh, he's black. And so I feel like when I speak on certain things and people see the color of my skin, they're like, he shouldn't be speaking on this type of things because he's not black.
So growing up and everything like that, if you didn't have the long hair, the straight hair, you weren't pretty. You weren't considered pretty. You weren't considered attractive. Then when the natural hair movement came along, natural girls started going all about, then they were all nice and everybody thought about coconut oil and big black booties and sundresses and shit. You know, like the norm, I guess. And I'll say after I shaved my head, a lot of people ask me, why did I cut it? My answer is always, it's just hair. I might have this hair next. Aren't you afraid of how you look? Aren't you afraid you'll look like a lesbian? No, I happen to like girls. It doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me though is your interpretation of my hairstyle. So I know this one lady at the hair store a couple months ago, she said, oh no girl, I don't ever let my man see my natural hair. I looked at her, I was like, bitch, why? And she says, because he doesn't like it. And I said, bitch, why? And then she says, he just prefers straight hair. I was like, so does he also prefer white women? And she looked at me like I did insult you. Yeah, you're right. I totally insulted you. But I wanted her to think about what she just said. Your man doesn't like your hair because it comes from your culture. Yet he likes this bitch's hair because it's straight. He's not accepting all of you, sweetheart. And she was like, damn, I did not come in the hair store for this today. And I was like, you didn't, but I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. And she's like, you just showed me something. You just proved to me something that I hadn't even realized. That I was being oppressed by my own boyfriend, my own husband. And I was like, yeah, girl, put that relaxer down. You got it. And she didn't relax her hair, but she did walk out with some curly weave. So it's baby steps to the process.
Who you are and your identity as it relates to like your environment. Like, so there are levels of like consciousness in just a literal sense of being aware of like, okay, I live in Texarkana. Okay, like, but what is Texarkana? Oh, I'm black. So what does it mean to be black here?
Well, first off, we're not represented anywhere and underappreciated every fucking where. Not to sound like that guy, but I don't know how you could pay somebody $10 an hour to fix a really big ass lawn and be okay with that. I don't get how your morals are that fucked up, where you feel like this man or this woman doesn't deserve $20 an hour for the labor that they put in. So black and brown identity is somewhat non-existent to the world, which we're definitely fighting to get more respected, which is, again, super sad. 2018, we're still trying to fight for respect and for people, honestly, to just leave us alone. That's all we want, is to be left alone.
Pero siempre ha sido 50% y 50%. Nunca ha sido diferente. Siempre vas a encontrar personas que te quieren y te aceptan como eres, pero también vas a encontrar personas que no les caes bien. So, nunca van a estar a gusto contigo, solamente algunas personas. Pero no quiere decir que todas son malas. Avisos. No, pues solamente que se porten bien, que traten de estar lo mejor que se pueda en este país. porque solamente así podemos estar tranquilos por los niños, por nuestros hijos, más que nada. Y tratar de hacer bien el trabajo lo mejor que se pueda para estar bien.
Black people have always kind of had to be careful about what they say. I'd rather say like signifying or communicating, because it's not just like what you say with your mouth, what you say with words, but what you say with your hair, what you say with how you walk, what you say with like the book that you read, and what you say in a conversation. I guess I feel differently weird here at certain times because I feel like I have to police myself and expressing yourself as a black person. And so suddenly people have to be aware of the fact that you're black. And I think here, like, people don't want to be like just aware of it.
You can get excited about something and be too loud and you're ghetto, or if I get angry or show any sort of emotion, then I'm just an angry black woman. That's just with my emotions. Like, you have to constantly like keep this calm demeanor about you, and even then when you do that, it's just something is wrong. Oh, you're not happy, you're not smiling, you're not doing the right things you need to do for me to feel comfortable. And it's like that all the time. Someone will tell me that something is wrong with the way I handle my emotions or my face. And it's probably the hardest thing about being a black woman, because it comes from everywhere. Like, even my dad, when I was a kid, he told me that I never smiled enough, and that whenever I got into the world, people were always going to say that, and that I had to try 10 times as hard to make other people comfortable because of who I was as a woman. And I was 12, 13 years old. Like, to know that for the rest of my life, I'm gonna have to just keep trying and try harder than everybody else and like put on a front or a smile if I want to succeed, or just for the sake of other people's comfortability.
When I was like, I was like 13, and I thought I was a lesbian, but it turned out I was just a guy. I was really into, you know, Tegan and Sarah, maybe. Yeah, so I know how to play every single song by Tegan and Sarah. And then I got really into Circus Survives, and I played every single song by them. The whole toxic masculinity thing that's going on, people are getting really in their feelings about it, especially the cis men. They think that if you don't act a certain way, you're weak. But I'm just like, toxic masculinity is when you're being a misogynist or just being disrespectful. I mean, you can be masculine as heck and be really nice to people and just be a decent person.
I finally realized that my gender identity and my gender expression are exceptionally different.
All right, who's ready for some more entertainment? Yes, honey. All the way from Texarkana, she is the tattooed tease, baby. Give it up for my girl, Miss Caredwin. Yes!
In my identity, I'm very feminine. I identify as female, and that's very important to me, but my gender expression has always been very androgynous, and it flows from one extreme to the other. And I don't know if it was because of listening to my dad shit on women that look like dykes or whatever, that it started to make me feel insecure. During elementary school, middle school, I got picked on for looking boyish and manly, which seems funny because, you know, I'm short hair, don't dress pretty androgynously, but it bothered me so much not feeling like I was being seen for who I was. So I did like hyper feminize in my expression for a while, and I didn't feel right. Like, I felt pretty, but I felt like a lie. And I'm still kind of struggling with that. I'll do some photo shoots where I'm particularly androgynous and I really, really like them, and then I'll get certain comments back, and I have to deal with this this dissonance. And like, I appreciate the comment and I see what they see, but I also like, someone recently told me I would make a very pretty boy. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm also a beautiful woman, just as masculine as I am, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I identify myself as bisexual. It was a long little struggle to finally be comfortable enough to say that. I remember just sitting in my room. It was really, really dark, and I was like, Mom, I need to talk to you. And she says, what is it? And so I was like, Mom, you know, I'm like really nervous about it, and I don't really want to tell her, but I know I need to tell her because this is something, like, coming out is hard. No matter if you think that your parents are going to accept you or not, it's just the stigma of not being normal, not being the standard. So we're just chilling in my room. It's super dark. And I come out and I'm like, Mom, I like girls. And she kind of just looks at me and she's like, is that why you're sitting in this room all dark and mopey? Because you like girls? And I was like, yeah, are you mad? She says, no. She's like, I love you no matter what you like. She was like, it doesn't matter. I love you. And she was like, you really brought me in this room to trip about you liking girls. I was like, yeah. She's like, get out of my face. And she literally laughs and walks out of the bedroom. And I'm like, yo, I got the coolest mom fucking ever. It's crazy. Like, I was always very athletic. I remember I hated this picture as like a kid because, first of all, I looked like a boy. And growing up in the South, being black, you just don't want to be a boy. Especially like being very athletic. But I remember when I think my mom took this picture, she was like, oh, this is great. And I was just like, whatever, just throwing a football. But now I look at it, it's really cool. Good old elementary school days. Hated my elementary school. The kids were just really mean. Because if you weren't the same as them, then you were nothing. You were just a big old weirdo. And they definitely let you know that.
It's different because you almost stick out like a sore thumb, especially in Texarkana, because you're different. Everybody knows you, and I actually have a very familiar face. Everybody knows who I am before they even know who I really am. So they're like, oh, that's such and such's daughter. So, you know, it's almost like kind of two forms of code switching, kind of, you know, so to say. You know, sometimes you have to code switch in the professional environment when you're black, and then in a heterophobic or a homophobic environment, you know, you got to code switch again. And if you're not out, if you're not comfortable with who you are, then yeah, it's terrible. I wasn't meant to be, you know, labeled, but if it wasn't for my labels, I don't want to say I wouldn't be anybody, but I think I'm pretty dope with them.
I found a lot of people are more comfortable with this in private than they are in public, and that was never a feeling I had with that relationship, and that was very new and validating, both in my sexuality and just who I am as a person. It was beautiful and raw and so new. And she's actually the reason I do burlesque. But we were both dealing with learning how to cope with our mental illnesses and stuff like that, and sometimes that really does get in the way of things. I didn't understand the intimacy that could exist within a uniquely feminine space. And she was the first person that made me realize that I never really had those close feminine relationships growing up. Like, I had like girlfriends and things like that, but there was that closed off, like there was always a wall that she broke down. And she actually, she came with me to meet my dad. She had no qualms with pushing through that hard space and that fear of what his reaction was gonna be for me. She helped me be brave in that moment.
The content is different. What I'm thinking about is more explicitly black. It goes back to being aware of it and like doing it intentionally. That is that's harder here. I think we know that it will cause conflict. Like everybody knows it. Because it will. We aren't wrong about that. Like, white people aren't wrong, like people of color aren't wrong to know that if people of color, black people do this, that will create tension. And people don't want the tension. Even though it's there, like, even though there are already tensions, obviously, that exist, but you don't want it to like come up to the level of consciousness, because then you have to, like with all things, like there are things about our identity that we suppress and don't even know that we know unconsciously. So I guess there is a fear, and it's more about when I like use the word of policing myself. I feel like I have to control the situation. If politics comes up, someone starts talking about Trump or they start talking about presidents, I have to like talk or say something and ensure that, or anticipate it going like getting crazy like real quick.
The commotion comes from the backwards emotion. That's why it's written backwards, or the lack of being able to show it, because it just builds up, I guess. And also it's other people telling you not to cause a commotion with your emotions. That's just what I was feeling today. Because I cause a lot of commotion with my emotions.
In a sense, like to symbolize the suppression of emotion?
Yeah, suppression and expression.
Gotcha.
It's both. Because how do I put it? I haven't had to explain it out loud. Accepting yourself, and no one knows what goes into loving who you are as a person and your own face and beauty and all of that jazz, and not coveting someone else's features, or trying to make yourself different.
How about consume and deflect?
The people in charge, the ones with all the money, just want you to buy, and they'll take your attention and put it on anything that they can to get your money away from them. So all that you do is consume. And it's also about man consuming each other, and especially coveting the female form and the woman. But again, that was a concept that I didn't know how to complete, which is why I feel like it's not a completed work yet. So
within the modification community, you go through this thing where you're like, oh, people are being prejudiced against me, and you have to be like, no, recognize that you did that. And it is a way for you to be more empathetic and understand that you need to fucking work with other people and help affect this change that needs to happen. This racism, this bigotry needs to stop. And there's no reason for a fucking black kid to get followed around a fucking store because he's come in to buy a pack of fucking bubble gum, and well, you know how the kids are. Like, no, you're making a very pointed statement. You're making a very pointed behavioral movement, and it shows, and it affects how they feel for the rest of their life. Like, when I walk around a store, I make a point to keep my hands out of my pockets. I put my hood off, even if I'm fucking cold, things like that. And it's behaviors I've learned to make other people more comfortable. And I realize children are forced to have to do that because they are scared of what's gonna happen if they don't. And again, that's hard for me to contemplate. And other people need to understand that that's happening. I don't understand why not everyone's eyes is open to that.
Like, you want to start it over?
Last night it got cold. I actually had to wear a bulky leather jacket, and still got followed around. I thought I was going to steal shampoo or soap, which honestly, it's just crazy. I get followed around in Hobby Lobby, which is one of my favorite places to be because I can just put my headphones on and just go. It's a place meant to create and have your hobbies, yet if you don't look the part, if I go in there to look at canvas or paints or just the jewelry and the stones just to make something that's pretty, they follow me around and make sure I'm not putting anything in my pocket. And it's stupid, it really is, and annoying. I left heated one time. One time I actually said, hey, I'm not stealing anything. Can I leave my purse here at the counter? I promise I won't take anything. You can check my pockets when I leave. And they just like, oh no, we didn't accuse you of stealing. We were just checking. We had other things. No one was worried about you at all. So, yeah, it's annoying. And it won't stop. They don't want you to be left alone. They feel like you're a danger if you're left alone. They surveil you constantly. Yeah, you have to tone down everything. Can't be too flashy. Can't look too poor. They'll follow you around in a Walmart, of all places.
I'm still working on this. And that's what I'll be doing across the country. The kids will be doing. This one man told me one time, drop me down anywhere in the world. Give me a few weeks and I'll learn how to survive. I can adjust. If you in this world, you got to learn how to survive and adjust. And I tell anybody that young, learn how to survive and adjust. Then when you get up where you don't need the job no more, then you can start voicing your opinion if you want to. But voicing your opinion will get you killed in this country or in this world a lot of times.
You could be like the most conservative black person in the world in Texarkana, and in that sense, you're actually maybe safe for the white person. Like you're not gonna be like revolution, because that's your conservative, right? Even in that context, that black person is still a threat. Even if they aren't really, they are, and once they are because they are black, even if they're like conservative and are down with whatever the white person that's next to them is down with, they're still like a threat because it's like they're still a black person. Even if the threat isn't like they're dressed in a suit and they're like clean shaven and there's no kind of stereotype, it's just the fear that I think is embedded deeply in like Western consciousness since slavery in America, in the South, of a black person realizing that they're black. and having some kind of change of mind and going off or something, even if you're not gonna go off, like it's just, there's a fear of, I'll say like white American consciousness is a fear of like a slave revolt. Like
for a person of my color, this is no place for me to be. To be a black man, it means almost the same as it did before. It's just that they done got more subtle with it, more on the surface with it. You still can't get good jobs. You still can't get loans and stuff like an average person that's white can, you know.
Now, all of a sudden, you know, you hear Trump saying that he's going to start back sending food boxes to the family. Well, a lot of people abuse the system. And you have, and some things, when you look at it, you can see why people think that, because you come through here throughout the week and young men are hanging out on the corner. You know, this is every day. But, you know, there are black educated people here. Some live in this neighborhood. They stigmatize Beverly, but Beverly is a good place. Just got some slumlords and people that just don't handle their business on a day-to-day basis.
Like, everybody cool around here. Like, they stayed there, like, for the same amount of years we stayed here, and ever since I was little. And we never had no conflict or problem. Like, everybody's like family around here, basically. No matter if you white, black, Mexican, you know.
It just depends what kind of, how you bring yourself. But
yeah.
Really, I keep my distance from them, to be honest. Because you can't trust them, you know what I'm saying? But
pretty much.
I know what you feel. I know what everybody feels in this world. You can say one thing, but I know what this world is. It ain't like I don't know there's only one black firefighter over there. You know what I'm saying? They don't at that fire department, they don't make it no secret that they only give the better jobs to it's plain to see everywhere you look. Go somewhere, and if somebody getting paid $20 an hour for doing the work, they all white. You know what I'm saying? Go somewhere and see, you find them, unless it's a government job like him. That firefighter over there, he's a firefighter. He got his job. He went along with whatever he had to go along with until he finally got him a job. And that's what you have to do in this world. You have to learn how to become a person that can make it.
So I just keep living life every day. And I really don't give a fuck what they got going on, honestly. I don't, because it's going to affect me if I'm worried about what the next person got going on, getting caught up in what the next person got to say. Yeah. Like, so I really don't care. I mean, that's them. Shit, if they want to live their life every day hating a black person, then that's them. Shit, hey, I love being black. That gave me a better reason to be black. Honestly.
Every once in a while, I'll get the odd racist that when my head was bald, Jesus, they thought that was an opening to go in on their tirades, and I had to like cut that out real quick. Something as simple enough as an ear piercing, well, I don't want it on this side because it's the gay side. Well, did you actually know that the gay community is the reason that you guys have the piercings that you have now? We're the one that started it. We're the ones that like did the nitty gritty underground and figured out how to do it safe.
It's the Bible Belt. For some odd reason, people still believe and think like they did when the Civil War was happening. I don't understand that because we have come so far just to get pushed back. So far all over again. It's somewhat hard to explain because I'm not those people. Like I can't speak for them. I can't speak for their mindset because mine is too open, I guess.
Like I'm uncomfortable being a white person mostly because I feel a sense of guilt that I can't do away with because everybody I'm around is an asshole who literally believes they're correct, and I can't even talk about white privilege because people will dismiss it as if it didn't exist. And yet, here I am, a privileged white person, living exactly like I should, as a gentrified type human being, out in my country estate, essentially, which is no different than, like I said, pre-Civil War existence. And it's based on my familial heritage, who I know, who I don't know, and in a small town, like you're saying, that has everything to do with everything. And in a small town like this, it's still entrenched. And there are a lot of open-minded people, and there are a lot of cruel people. And so, I mean, it's a good mix. I'm gonna be honest, it's good for good writing. Misery is good for writing. I like to write, and it's a good place to be a miserable writer.
Man, this town is so like rife with like subtle and overt racism. It's kind of hard to pick like one particular situation. Honestly, this year has been a lot of me trying to kindly check my friends. When I confront somebody about, hey man, that's not fucking cool, like that's, like why the fuck would you say that? That's inappropriate. They kind of scoff at me like, well, why do you even give a shit? Or I've had the, it's not your place, you're fucking white too. Like, no, it is my fucking place. I have a privilege that some people don't fucking have, and you're listening to me right now instead of the fucking person that asked you nicely prior and you fucking affected. Why?
Like, go get my car fixed at the local place, East Street Tire or whatever, and I go in and they're just, you know, it's like a black dude will walk in and they'll treat him totally differently, you know, and like the assumptions of how they should treat him instantly come into play, and they think, well, I've got to act this way because he's this color, which is a subtle way of accidentally being racist.
Drop you off with me. Go to the gold Cadillac.
You'll be $500.
Oh, all right. What's going on, Bob?
That when it comes to jail, that black people, you know, it's over.
Oh yeah.
They bias off the top. They're gonna, you know, just discriminate against you. They don't even follow the case through before they sentence a person. And I got a son in jail, so yeah, that's how I know. Plus I've been in jail myself. The change is good. So that's what we need. Somebody come in and investigate the jail system. Because even though if you don't have a charge, if you didn't actually do it, you can't help yourself. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Innocent people that got innocent still, they need help. That's the only thing going on around here. Besides, you get in trouble every now and then, but that's every city.
I went to Whiskey Rivers. You know what I'm talking about? It used to be, what's it called? It used to be Shooters. Yeah. It was when, I don't know, at some point when I was gone, it got named Whiskey Rivers, which is like a weird name. It's like, and it's funny because it's like, that's like in the script that I'm working on, like Whiskey Rivers. And so one time I was there and I was smoking a cigarillo, and this white man comes up, and it was like 3 or 4 like white people, maybe 2 white dudes, 2 white women or something. and like I noticed like they were like looking back at me like, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I'm like, I'm just like, that's just weird. Like they're like looking at me as if they're suspicious about something. And so eventually this white man comes up, he's like in his 50s, which is funny, and I'm gonna say this because if what I'm working on ever becomes something, and if this guy ever sees this, like one of the characters is kind of, first of all, Whiskey Rivers is like part of the story, and this guy is like kind of a character in it, but personality wise. But so this guy comes up, and he's like, what are you smoking? I'm like, a cigarillo, or I guess it was a cigar. And he was like, oh, he's like, I thought you were smoking weed in here. I'm like, dude, why would I just be standing in here smoking weed? I was like, and two, like, do you know what weed smells like? Like, do you know what weed smells like? And he's like, well, yes, I do. I arrest people for it. And I was like, well, that's dangerous that you arrest people for something that you don't even know you don't even know how it smells. I'm like, and he was, yeah. So that didn't make me like want to get out of Texarkana per se, but it gave me something to think about. Like that's the thing. Like when I come here, so there's always something for me to like, okay, like to think about. So I stay because I like have family here and I like enjoy being here with them. But it's like stuff like that gives me like material for thought. Then I'm just like, okay, I can think about this and like write about it in some way. But yeah, so like you brought up Arrow and like, so that happened. And I'm like, okay, I know that he was suspicious because I was black, probably because of my hair. I was like, but then again, I'm like, and here's another thing that I think really like rubs them the wrong way is if you talk to them and you're not afraid. Like you just talk like confidently and you don't even have to like, and I think that's what happened at Arrow. Like I wasn't like, I was just like, yeah, blah, 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 just talking like, you know, and they probably felt, like they probably felt bullied. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of stuff happens. Whiskey Rivers. When you walk in, like it has like, it's like no, it's basically like, it's like no shirts below your, like no tall tees, no Timbs or something. It just has this whole list of things. It's like, okay, I mean, there are black places that are like, no, if you're gonna come in here, like this is gonna be like a grown and sexy black thing or something. And so like they don't want what they thugs, as they would kind of, as they would put it, to come in. But yeah, little stuff like that especially Whiskey Rivers is like a unique place in the U.S. I feel like that somebody could do, just like the name. Isn't that Whiskey Rivers? That sounds like a place that I would, like a black person maybe wouldn't want to go. It's like Whiskey Rivers. I mean, black people like whiskey, but it's like a whiskey river. First of all, I say, okay, that means that there are going to be a bunch of drunk country white people swimming in whiskey rivers because they're like wasted, and that's dangerous for one. River is just like, I don't know, I feel like they might like kill me and put me in a river. Like that, I feel like I wonder if I want to like talk to the owner and like, how did you come up with that name? Because that's actually a perfect name for this place, Whiskey Rivers.
When it came to this particular incident of when I was in a car wreck and my pelvis was shattered, I didn't know, and then, you know, I got to the hospital and I was telling them that I'm hurting. I had glass stuck in my arm. I was bleeding everywhere, bleeding from my face and everything like that. And they were asking me questions, and then I told them I was like, I'm transgender, and they immediately were like, okay, well, we need to get a catheter on you because you could probably be pregnant. And I was like, okay, first off, I'm intersex. I can't get pregnant. And they're like, well, you could be because you have the parts. I said, I just told you I'm intersex. There is no way I can get pregnant. And to me, that just showed they wanted to see what I was like downstairs. And once I refused that, I told them, I said, I just need an x-ray. There is something wrong. Y'all need to check me or at least get the glass out of my arms. And the doctor came in and he was like, well, you're probably just in shock from the car accident, so you should probably just go home and take some aspirin and you'll feel better. Okay. When he left, the adrenaline, I guess, wore off. I got up and I fell to the floor. I could not walk. I was crawling. I was pulling myself on the walls trying to get out into the hallway. And I just thought, oh, maybe I pulled a muscle. I don't know. So, you know, I went home. I couldn't walk. 3 days later, I couldn't walk, so I was like, you know what? I need to go back to the hospital. And then they finally gave me an x-ray, and lo and behold, my pelvis is shattered. And the nurse says to me, well, you need to be walking around, or try to, because if you don't, you can get a blood clot and die. So, essentially, I could have died if I didn't go back, because I had no idea. And that happened to me all because I'm trans. And the thing is about that, there is no protections for trans people for that, for jobs or for health care. They can turn you away no matter what. Yep. Well, this place needs better LGBTQ health care, okay? I shouldn't have to travel 2 hours just to get my hormones. And my doctors here, I'm basically teaching them when I shouldn't have to. They don't know anything about trans people or even, you know, gay people care.
You can just be, again, like a normal, non-radical black person, and like you're still like a threat. So like that is like, so, and once it is dangerous, it would be dangerous to actually be like a radical black person, because you might actually like get shot or something. I'll be driving sometimes, I'll see that there'll be a truck in front of me and it'll be like a F-150. I'm like, okay. And I see like it's a white man in it, okay. And then I see a Trump sticker on the back, okay. And then I see that he was in the military. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this dude would kill me like that. I could find myself in a situation with this person where they could easily transition to that they need to do something to me to like not just save themselves, but to save everybody. They'll become a vigilante quick. They would become the police, like even though they aren't. When you think of Trayvon Martin, like a white man thinking I have to become the police in this moment and like save the people, I have to like protect America.
I hate cops. I hate cops so much. I would have knocked that cop out, I'm not lying, like, especially when it was frisking me, man, like that's too much. I ain't got anything on me. All I have is my blood pressure medicine. I don't have any drugs. No drugs. Not on me. No bombs either. There's no bombs in the car. Fuck, what? I've never heard that asked, and I've been stopped a few times. I've been in cars being stopped, and they've never been like, you have any bombs in there?
That's what he straight up asked me. Like, are there any, he said, are there any bombs? That's what he said, just like flat out bombs.
That? What do we, well, I mean, what do we look like? I mean, yeah, I guess. We kind of look like Antifa. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna bomb a place. I'm not gonna bomb a place.
Would you say we look like Antifa?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'm part of it, come on. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. What a time to be alive.
It's overwhelming at times because I want out. I can't be here forever. But I also don't want to leave, you know? It's weird. It's a weird cyclical thing.
Why do you want out?
I want out because there is so much more for me to grow and I can't do it anymore here. I can't.
Why do you want to stay?
Because I want to see my friends grow. I want to see this place grow. I want to stay because this place needs some healing. I still need to heal, but I don't know if I still can here.
Look outside the window. That's downtown, and it's decrepit and dying. There's beauty in it, but everybody's expanding, and everybody that tries to open up something or solve and curate just to take what we have and make it better, every project gets knocked down and it keeps going out to the outskirts, and that goes for everything. It's sad. It's almost as if this town is set up to just not succeed. Like it's not even just this town, probably. It's probably the world.
We can't go to a little mom and pop Jamaican shop where they're cooking jerk chicken and doing cornrows in the back. Like, we don't have that shit here. What we have are the Korean-owned hair stores that have straight hair. Those big cities like LA, like New York, shit, New Orleans for that fucking matter, they have culture. People flock to them. What do we have here in Texarkana? We're 4 points. That's it. And people pass through to get chicken and go to the bank. That's it. We just kind of drifted here. So we're all just kind of here and trying to support each other, but not really, because we don't like each other.
Oh, Texarkana. I have mixed feelings about this place. I like it because it's simple. It's simple because it's all I know. It's comfortable because it's all I know, but it's uncomfortable because I can't be who I want to be. And it's such a closed-minded place. I don't like this place. I don't. Okay, I just don't like this place at all. Like, never mind the mixed feelings, I just don't like it. It's if you're an older white person, yeah, this is the place for you to be. But if you're a young minority, I would say get out while you can. Get out while you can, because it is only going to get worse.
You have to pretend to think like other people and like their ways and wear their business suits. You put on the clothes that they want you to put on. You say the things that they want you to say. You sell the things that they want you to sell. And you take their money and leave. That's the only bit of conforming I've ever done.
It's abstract in the sense that a person who seems to abstract from like what's here. So you seem to be somewhere else. It's like you're like not here. You're like something about you is up in the clouds or like somewhere else that's not like what's going on here. And some of that for me may just be my like aloofness, but maybe, yeah, so that's something interesting to think about. Like if I had grown up somewhere else, would I be as aloof or am I as aloof or like in my head as I am now because I had to be, because I couldn't like express it, so I just did it all in here.
Around here, I would say I did conform to a lot of the stereotypical like masculinity, toxic masculinity. I used to fight a lot because when you do that, in their mindset, it means, oh, you're tough, like you're badass, like, you know, that type of thing, you know.
Why do you think you did that though? Is it fear?
Yeah, and it's wanted to be respected. And unfortunately, in toxic masculinity, you're not respected unless you talk down to people or you're hurting people. Violence, for those people that believe in toxic masculinity, violence is the #1 component in being masculine. It is. Definitely being a macho man, just fighting people for no reason and yelling at people that disagree with you, that is what toxic masculinity is, and that's what they think masculinity is. It's barbaric. Like caveman.
I will not conform. That is the biggest part of who I am. That is the biggest part of what my mom has instilled in me from day one, honestly, to never conform and to never lose yourself trying to fit in with other people, because at the end of the day, you're just going to end up hurting yourself.
Black people were expected to fit in, and I'm not that type of person. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm at home from my hometown, Georgia, or I lived in California for a lot of years, and I also lived in Arizona. I'm just gonna be me.
Let go of your life on the open sea. Scared to die, no need to cry, darling. Tears are a wave in this bitter life. Look to the old lighthouse to guide you home tonight. Let your hair go. Don't need to leave so slow. Hell won't be so bad after all. Weren't you there all alone?
In my family, drug addiction goes back a few generations. Like my great-grandfather was a abusive alcoholic, and my grandfather, he he was on a lot of drugs and stuff too, and then my mom, and then it trickled down to me and my siblings. And my mom was never there because she can't be there because she has a disease. She's addicted to that stuff. And then I lost my sister to a heroin overdose, and then I was on a really bad path with it too. And then after I lost my sister to that, I decided that I needed to get clean. Yeah.
What was that process like for you?
It was hell. I mean, the night I found out that she passed away, I threw away all my heroin. And if you don't know anything about it, you go through really bad withdrawals, and most people will go to a clinic to get some type of drug to help them with that. No. I sweated it all out. I was going through hallucinations. I was getting sick. It was bad. And the thing is about being addicted to drugs, you may be sober, but you're still an addict. It's still hard because sometimes I still catch myself wanting to get high on that again.
And you and your sister, you guys were really close, huh?
Me and my sister were very close. She was the first person in my family that really accepted my identity, and I mean, she even picked out my name for me, and we were really close, and she was a really good support system for me.
The tattoo on your hand is Jess, right?
Yeah, sure is. Sure is. It's always with me. Yeah.
What happens to us beautiful ethnic people when we stop being ourselves is we get suicide, probably. Lots of suicide. People who don't accept themselves usually will commit suicide. That's not like a strong fact or anything like that. That's just shit. I've seen it. I've almost been there a couple different times where I'm just like, fuck it. If I'm not going to be accepted by anybody and loved by anybody, then I just don't want to be here. And woo, got me a little all emotional. Man. So that's what it is. Us beautiful ethnic people, when we feel like we have nothing else left to give, we take our own lives. And it's the sad reality that, you know, European colonization can make us feel so alone, you know, to where we feel like isolated, and we just need to isolate ourselves from the world by killing ourselves. That's usually what happens. Or we conform. We finally conform. We're finally the horse, the Mustang that is broken down and tired and just hungry for acceptance and attention.
The want to fit in is always going to be there, but the need to be yourself is always going to fight it too. Without being comfortable to be truly you, like, there's so many experiences that you're not going to get to have that you deserve. That the world makes you feel like you don't, but you fucking do. You deserve that shit. You deserve that happy, even if it's for a moment. You deserve it.
Well, top surgery for me will be my freedom. It will, because I've been binding my chest for like 10 years and it hurts. I'm being confined for like 12 hours of the day. I can't breathe, my ribs hurt and stuff. So like when I'm able to finally get top surgery, I'll be more comfortable. I'll be able to sit up straight and stand straight when I talk and not worry if my chest is showing, if I'm binding well enough. It's one of those things that I've been waiting so long for it, and I know after that happens, my anxiety will be gone.
Explore your own shame and don't be motivated by shame. A lot of people are ashamed of who they are, and it's, especially when it comes to like the specifics of their life, the circumstances of their conception. Who you are is completely like wrapped up in like who you are around and what you're around and where you're from being Texarkana, who you are being black, who you are being a man, being gay, being a lesbian, being, I don't know, so many poor, all these different things that are who you are and that are relational elements of your identity. And I say that because I think even for people like us, sometimes even our like politics, cultural stuff can be like motivated by shame. It's like, oh, I'm ashamed of Texarkana, so, you know, or I'm ashamed of like my family, or I'm ashamed of who I am. I feel like a lot of, at least for me, a lot of the creative stuff that I do is me working through like shame about something. You can't know yourself if you're like ashamed of yourself.
I think the best thing about being queer and black is actually being able to accept yourself, because you have really two identities. Hey, let me get those flowers, man. But you know, you really have kind of two identities, but it instilled a little bit more pride within me, because I learned how to be proud of being black, and then growing to be prideful in that, I was able to grow and be prideful in being queer.
Just because you don't know your African culture doesn't mean that your name isn't, just because you don't know your African culture doesn't mean that you're not African. And when I had that epiphany, I was like, whew, thank God I can breathe again, I can live again, because for so long I was trying to run from myself. And once I found myself, once I found her in the dark corner, just like picture of, I'm like, it's gonna be okay. You're going to accept yourself. And at that point, that's exactly what I did.
And I'm excited about life. I don't feel super depressed right now, which is always a plus. Always a plus. The hoes love me. My mom loves me. Life's great. For the most part. I got paid today. Hey. Good day. A good day. Today's a good day.
Struggling with yourself is a really, really hard thing, but it's necessary. That means you actually care about yourself and that you're trying to better yourself and challenge yourself to be something new or different or better or exactly the same, but in the way that you feel comfortable. When you go through an existential crisis, it's like, why the fuck am I here? Do we have a purpose? If anything, it's probably just to learn. Sticking out like a sore thumb is hard, very hard, but it's the only opposable thing, the only force that stops all the other fingers from dropping everything that you have. You will heal, though.
There's a lot of us, and there's strength in numbers, and you're never alone. There's always going to be somebody there that's gone through the same thing you have gone through. You just have to reach out, and it is a scary time to be yourself right now, but I mean, if we all go out of our way to be ourselves, they can't take down all of us, and we have a voice, and a revolution starts with just one person. So it'll happen, everything will be okay. You just gotta have hope.
Y'all know what this is, so
check it out.
Don't nobody wanna be and I won't be. Don't nobody wanna be seen. She don't wanna feature. No feature.
Damn, son! Damn, son!
Just put it in the ashtray.
Right now I do.
It's us meeting other people that keep talking in videos. Really happy this year has been so good as far as like
Oh shit. Yeah.
How much that big ass head weigh, yo?
Being black is beautiful. Can't you see? You know, I work hard for this perfection. You know. I love you.
Two fucking rules. I said, you fuck them rules up, I'm gonna whip your ass. I'm gonna fuck you up. Well, guess what? My kids didn't fuck those two rules up.
You can't fuck everybody up.
Two rules.
That doesn't work for everyone.
You bring me home the best grades you can, and you respect others. Two rules raising children.
How about no rules?
Bullshit.
No.
You gotta have rules.
No.
Oh, you're like, okay, you're way out there.
I'm one of those.
I didn't even think that when I came up with my I just wanted to hug you because you were like a really cool person.
Here, I'm a fucking stand up and